Hello, welcome to Introduction to the Visual Arts. Today we're going to do a small departure from our usual format. Because drawing realistically becomes so important to so many people, I think I want to just show you a small exercise here in how to draw a piece of fabric. And this work is basically heavy on line. Now, it looks really daunting, I would think, and lots of people would say that they can't do it. But it's a lot easier than it actually looks. One of the rules about making good art is fill up the space. So you can see for this artwork, you'll need a 9 by 12 piece of paper, and you'll simply need a Sharpie. Now, if you are very tentative, I would suggest that you practice this someplace else. Now, before we get started, we're just going to look at this work of art just a little bit and analyze it just a little bit. This is based on line. And line is one of the elements of art. And I just wrote line down here. I don't know if you can see it, but it says line. And this is just a series of lines. This is a piece of fabric that one day I was walking through the park, and I found a piece of fabric that had been lying out in the elements for many days. And it was all chewed up like this, and it was all very loosely woven. So I'm going to show you how to do this in this video. So what you want to do is you want your 9 by 12 sheet of paper. Now, remember in subsequent videos I've talked about how you should have a border. But in this one we're going to break the rules and we're not going to have a border. And so the way that we're going to start is we're just going to start with a diagonal line. We know that diagonal lines create interest in art. And what I'm doing is I'm drawing just kind of a fluid line, and I'm doing it at a diagonal, and the line is breaking at a few spots. And also I'm thinking about this piece of fabric that I found out in the woods, and the elements had beaten it. It had been beaten up by the rain. The rabbits and all sorts of animals had chewed it. And so it wasn't one big continuous piece anymore. And so again, I know that I have to put my lines kind of close together, because if my lines are close together, I know that it's going to be, my eye is going to read it as one solid thing. I also know that I want to show some of these chewed lines. And as you can see, I'm barely touching the paper with the tip of my marker. I'm not pressing hard at all. I'm just going very lightly, hitting the paper, because I want to create what is called a modulated line. A modulated line is kind of thick and thin, and I don't want this to be drawn with the ruler, because I know that if I draw lines with the ruler, they're going to flatten out space. And what I want to do with this one is I want the illusion of depth on a flat surface. And so I'm going to continue with these lines until I have a lot of the paper filled in. But I also know that when I'm working with a positive negative, and the black is the positive and the white is the negative, I want to be really aware of what the outside shape looks like. If you look at this one, you can see that the outside shape is not square by any means. It's just this fragmented in and out kind of undulating spot. And the black becomes the positive, and the white becomes the negative. So I'm just going to stop over here, and I'm going to start just going here and just going back and forth and just taking my time. And this really should feel kind of therapeutic. So I'm just going to draw my lines. And again, I want this very loose weave. I want to have this feeling like this piece of fabric, this piece of burlap has been out in the elements, and it's no longer intact. It's just a lot of little pieces that are just left over from the elements. And I'm just going to keep going. And again, I'm hardly touching the paper. And also, the nice thing about this is as I go over the top of the paper, I'm not smudging it because there's no graphite where my hand is going on the top. So I'm just going to draw my lines very, very loosely and just keep going, 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 going. And then when I have as many lines in this direction as I want, and I'm going to fill up some here and I'm going to fill up some here, but once I think you've got the idea, I'm going to turn my paper a quarter turn now, and then I know that these lines need to be at a 90-degree angle because I have to weave these lines through the fabric, and I want them to be at a 90-degree angle, because if they're not at a 90-degree angle, you're not going to get the feeling that this is actually an actual piece of fabric that is being that has actually been woven together. So you want to make sure that it's at a 90-degree angle. And here I'm just going over the top some places. And then as I come here, I'm just going to put in some little fragments here that have just gotten away with, they have survived. So I'm just going to weave my fabric through again and keeping my lines not flat at all, but trying to get a little bit of curve going back and forth in this project as I'm working on it. So I'm going to continue, and then when I'm all done, I'll end up with something that looks like this. And that is how I have achieved this very loose piece of fabric that is heavy on black line. So good luck with this project, and when you are finished, on the back, write your title and write your thoughts about the project, and know that this is heavy on line. So we'll talk about some of the other elements in other videos. Well, good luck with this. If you have questions, you can email me, or you can go to the Moodle discussion board. Thank you for your attention.